Hey guys, how's it going? Stephen Cox here, and today we're going to be talking about harmonics on the U-bass. So harmonics are basically where you're touching different parts of the string over certain frets. And when I say over the frets, I mean over the piece of metal. And it's basically where you're like splitting the string in half. There's going to be a harmonic. If you split it into fourths, there'll be the same harmonic in a couple of the fourths, although the 1 1/2 will be a lower pitch version. So find the other one. There it is. But there are random places on the strings, and basically what you do is you touch the strings lightly over these frets, and then you just pluck the string normal. So that's a natural harmonic. So that's what we'll talk about first. And then we have false harmonics, which you can do in a lot of different places on the neck. You don't have to be in specific spots compared to the whole string, but you do have to be in specific spots compared to which fret you're holding down, because on false harmonic, you should be holding a fret down and then using your thumb to create the harmonic where you are and plucking with your pointer finger. And we'll talk more about that as we go. I know it's a little bit confusing. It's not a super beginner thing, but a lot of people use harmonics to tune the strings, because the 5th fret harmonic on the E string should be the same as the 7th fret harmonic on the A string. So let's just talk about natural harmonics real quick first. Oh, and that's definitely a great question, Mr. Ragman. It's definitely easier on the round wound strings. And then the flat wound strings, it's okay, but I'm using the round wound for a reason. On the rubber strings, it's definitely doable. It's just you have to be a lot more precise, because the strings kind of mute themselves. And if you were to mute the strings here, the harmonics would be much quieter. So it affects the harmonics a lot more than it affects the open strings or the notes ringing out. So definitely it's easier on the round wound strings, but it is doable on the rubber strings. And if I think to grab my other U-bass in a minute, I can demonstrate with that in a little bit. But the most important thing is being right over where the frets are, meaning the actual pieces of metal, not in between the frets, like when we go to push down a string and play the note. And the other really important thing is your right hand is just touching the string. It's not holding it down or anything. It's just touching it. So the string is still floating above the fingerboard when you're playing harmonics. So let's start with the easiest one that we can play. And this doesn't matter which U-bass you play it on. This one should ring out enough to where you can get it on any instrument. So first, we'll find the 12th fret. And I mean the 12th piece of metal. So if you see the fret with the 2 dots on a lot of them, there'll be 2 markers. That's letting you know it's the 12th fret. And basically, you want to be just above the piece of metal, just towards the body of that space that you normally push down on. That'll be the 12th piece of metal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's not the one behind back here, but it's the one closer to the body. Okay. So that's what they sound like. So that's 4 harmonics that we can play. 1 on the G string at the 12th fret, 1 on the D string, 1 on the A string, and 1 on the E string. Now, something that's important to note is you want to just barely touch the string. If you're touching the string too hard, you're probably going to be flattening out the skin here. And if you flatten out your finger over the harmonic, it'll touch too much of the string and it won't be as accurate. You got to be really accurate, like right over where the piece of metal is. And what kind of helps is once you play the harmonic, you can let go. So this is different than other notes. They'll still ring out even after you let go. Right? So that's the difference between harmonics and fretted notes. All right, let's see if we got any questions already. Hey, everybody. Overly Creative One. I like the name, by the way. I see you commenting on a lot of my videos. You just bought a set of round wounds. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so the round wounds are really cool. To me, the only downside with them is string noise when you're moving around on the neck. And the ability to slide on the E string, I kind of like that better about flat wounds. But I do like the round wounds for a lot of things, especially harmonics. So Anyway, we touch very lightly right over that piece of metal, and then we just pluck the string normally. So try doing a 12th fret harmonic on the G string, then on the D string, the A string, and last but not least, the E string. And you might notice that I'm touching the other strings with my other finger. That's just to mute them so that they don't ring out in addition. That's just me muting. The only important thing is just touching right over the piece of metal on the string and not having any other part of your finger touch the string that you're playing. So if I'm playing the E string, I'm not letting like another finger touch the string at the same time doing it, or it won't work. And then you just pluck normal and it should ring out. So go ahead and try that out and let me know if anyone's having any difficulties, and I might be able to help you guys through it. But that's the idea. And then once you've played it, you can let go of it and it'll continue to ring out. So there's one over the 12th fret, and that one's the easiest one to get. There's one right over the 7th fret as well. So we can just jump down to the 7th fret. Doesn't matter which string, there's going to be one on every single string. So try the 7th fret there. Right over the 7th piece of metal. Touch very lightly, be very accurate. Try to touch it with as little of the fingertip as possible and try to line it up directly over the piece of metal. And like I said, there aren't harmonics on every fret. So if you try this over the 1st fret, for instance, it's not going to work very well. But if you try it over the 7th fret, the 12th fret, the 5th fret, a little bit towards the headstock, just behind the 4th fret, and then on the 3rd fret, just kind of in between the 3rd and 4th fret, just go up a little toward the body. There'll be one there as well. That one's the hardest one probably to get out of the flat wound strings and possibly the rubber strings, depending. But I'll have to try it on the rubber. I think if you're accurate enough, it does work. I know there's a video that somebody pointed out to me on one of my other videos about Bakiti Kumalo that plays with Paul Simon. He has his own signature U-bass, but he was demonstrating all the harmonics and doing some slap stuff on there. And he got the harmonics out here to ring out really well. So there are even some more harmonics between the 3rd fret and the 4th fret. Sorry, the 2nd fret and the 3rd fret as well. But they're closer together. You have to be way more accurate. And sometimes plucking closer to the bridge kind of helps to get the notes to ring out a little bit brighter. So I hope that helps a little bit. Let's see if y'all got any questions so far. Okay, so normally the harmonics won't be really out of tune unless you were to like bend the string in some way. So it's more likely that the intonation of the bass is off if the notes don't match. So like, let's say we're playing the 12th fret harmonic. It's a good way to check your intonation. If the harmonic's in tune with the normal pushing down of the note on the 12th fret, then your U-bass is really well intonated. Most of ours will be slightly off, and you might notice that they're a little bit different. But usually the harmonics will be in tune. However, when you get to these that are very close together, I know that they are a little bit sharp compared to the notes sometimes. And I think Jocko, when he was doing harmonics, sometimes would tune the strings, I want to say a little bit flat. If I have it in the wrong way, I'm not sure. But because of some of those harmonics, they would ring out a little bit sharp. So he would tune a little bit flat if he was going to be playing a lot over here. So just kind of a little go-to, but most of them will be pretty much in tune. And your finger being slightly off, really just mute the string. It won't really change the pitch too much. All right. So with the fretless, you have to figure out where the frets would be. So one way to do that is you can kind of just follow along the string, touching really lightly, and then wherever you hear a harmonic, you know, you're very close to it, but you're really just estimating where those are. So, so Paul, I do believe that you can. It's just a matter of pushing down lightly. Don't hold down. Just touch the string lightly. Push down is the wrong word. Just touch the string lightly, and try to get right over where the piece of metal would be. Your fretless probably has fret markers, those lines. It should be over where those lines are as well. So hopefully you'll be able to do that. All right. Is it Leticia? Well, I hope I didn't mispronounce your name too bad, but I'm glad you got a U-bass. I'm glad you like it. That's awesome. And greetings. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've actually been to Germany one time. It was a lot of fun. I got to play living room concerts over there in Frankfurt, and let's see where else. Cologne, which I'm totally pronouncing it like the American way, and a couple other places. But it was a lot of fun being in Germany, and everybody there was super cool and super kind. All right. Yes, so there's a thing called sympathetic vibration. You might notice if you play like a G note on any string other than the G string and don't touch the G string, and then you mute that string, you might notice the G string's ringing out. And so that's sympathetic vibration. If you hit the same note that the open string would be, like the G down here, for instance, on the D string, which is the 5th fret on the D string, you might notice that the G string rings out sympathetically because they're the same pitch, even though I didn't touch the G string at all. Like, let me try to demonstrate it so you can see it, hopefully. I'm not touching the G string at all, right? You see it? It's still ringing out even though I'm muting all 3 of the other strings. So that's sympathetic vibration. And that does happen, and sometimes the harmonics can cause that to happen too. And sometimes the sympathetic vibration can drown out the harmonics, which is why I mute the other strings, but not the string that I'm playing the harmonic on sometimes. All right, so hopefully I didn't say that all too fast. But we've got one at the 12th fret. We've got a good one at the 7th fret. We've got one at the 5th fret. We've got one just behind, meaning closer to the headstock, the 4th fret, just in front of the 3rd fret, and a couple in between the 2nd and the 3rd fret. So those are the hardest ones to get out. I wasn't able to get those out on the flat wounds, which is why I switched over to this bass ukulele, U-bass. All right. So now that we've got the idea on harmonics, does anybody have any questions? Is anybody having any issues playing these? Is it hard to get out? The biggest things that kind of happen if you're having trouble with it is you got to watch the rest of your hand and make sure that none of the rest of the hand is touching the string, that the only point of contact is where the harmonic is, so that once you get through plucking, nothing else is touching the string in any other place. If you happen to touch the string in some other place with one of the other fingers, it won't ring out at all. This won't work. Okay. Okay, so Kendrick, I do think that there would be. I don't know for sure because I never tried it. The reason that I wouldn't use a regular 34-inch scale string on a U-bass is because these parts aren't designed for quite that much tension. And also the gauge is different of the strings. So it might be the exact opposite problem. It might be that the strings from the full scale they're just too thin, right? So you'd have to let the strings be very, very, very loose when you're going to play them if you put them on the U-bass. But the other problem is that if there are the metal core, which these have a nylon core, then it'll put more stress on the tuners wrapping around there. And it'll put more stress down here as well. So I think it's a bad idea personally, but I've never tried it. So it might be that it works, but I would say you're probably risking hurting the instrument. But that's a good question. So now that we've got harmonics out, and they would sound really cool with the chorus. It's a good point, Seth. But now that we've got some harmonics, let's do some exercises with them. So why don't we try doing the 5th fret harmonic on the G string? Then we're going to do the 4th fret harmonic. It's just behind the 4th fret. So it's almost directly over, but it's just a little back this way. So just a slight bit that way. And you can kind of just touch lightly and play until you've got it ringing out. Just remember, you got to touch really lightly. We're not squeezing the string. We're not trying to touch the string as much as possible. Just a tiny point of contact. Right? So we've got the 5th fret on the G string, the 4th fret on the D string, and the 3rd fret on the A string. So we can do it forwards and backwards. And those are 3 notes that are in order in a minor scale. If you go and you keep going, but we'll talk about how to keep going in a second. So it'll be the 3rd fret. I'm just going to do them backwards now. The 3rd fret on the A string, the 4th fret on the D string, and the 5th fret on the G string. Okay? And then now we're going to do the one that's just slightly in front of the 3rd fret. So it's in between the 3rd and 4th fret, but just way closer to the 3rd fret. And that's going to be on the D string. And then we're going to go to the 4th fret, the one that's just behind the 4th fret, just slightly closer that way, on the G string. And that'll go as the first 5 notes of a minor scale. Let me figure out which minor scale it is real quick. It's an E minor scale. So we have a few scales that we can play, and there's actually one that we can play in its entirety, I believe. Yeah, so that would be, what, a B minor scale? And if you look through all my videos, there's a very old video of me doing a B minor scale in Harmonics on the full scale electric bass. But you can play a whole entire minor scale, which means that if you know some songs that use notes in the minor scale, you can kind of play them using this. Right? But it's hard to remember the order, so you may have to play them through until you get the idea of where each note is, because it's no longer like a linear thing, and your brain's probably used to thinking the pitch is going to go up if I go this way, and it's going to go up as I get to the thinner strings in order of the frets. But notice how we're going 3, 4, 5, and then right here we're going to the 4th fret here, even though the 3rd fret, even though the 4th fret harmonic was lower pitched. So it's kind of weird and confusing with harmonics in that sense. Oh yeah, I've never tried harmonics with an octave pedal. That's interesting. I wonder what the quality would be like of the lower octave of the harmonic. Okay, so this is great, and we can get a full B minor scale out of this. So let's try it. Let's try this real quick. This is 3rd fret on the E string now. So this is a totally new thing. 3rd fret on the E string, 4th fret harmonic on the A string. Just remember, it's just slightly back from the 4th fret. Then the 5th fret harmonic on the D string, right over the piece of metal. So we got 3, 4, 5 on the E string, A string, D string. Then we're gonna go back to the 3rd fret harmonic on the A string this time. Then the 4th fret harmonic on the D string, and then the 5th fret harmonic on the G string. So we've got 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. And so it's 3 on the E, 4 on the A, 5 on the D string, then 3 on the A string, 4 on the D string, 5 on the G string. And then we've got 2 more, and it's going to be 3 on the D string and 4 on the G string. So it's the same pattern. It's almost like we're doing that spider exercise that we were doing on those intermediates, only we're just doing harmonics, and we're only doing 3 strings at a time, 3 notes at a time. And we're doing these 3, then scooting that hand down a position, and then we scoot it down 1 more position, but we don't have a string here, so we're not worried about it. And then that's it. And then you can practice playing it backwards as well. So it's very hard to do. You got to be very, very accurate with this. And thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. I like your screen name too, Overly Creative One. I like the pun there. I'm glad you enjoy the lessons a lot. And thanks again, Tristan. So you use a loop pedal on it or compression for harmonics. Yeah, you might find that compression helps a little bit here. Sometimes compression can. I think compression is not bad for harmonics. It might actually help because when they're too quiet, it'll bring the other notes down if you're combining them with notes. And so that's another thing I want to say. You can combine harmonics while playing like a lower note on the E string. So like, let's say I'm pushing down the G on the E string, that note, and then I'm playing the harmonic on the 4th fret on the G string. So I'm playing third fret on the E string with my pointer finger pushing down, you know, like a normal note, and then my pinky is just doing a harmonic on the G string. And actually, you can use your pinky to go back and forth between a few notes. And you can make a little song out of that where you have a bass line and then a melody from using harmonics. But you're very limited in what keys you can play in because you only have a full B minor scale, right? And B minor is the same as D major, so you have most of the notes at D major as well. Not all of them, but most of them. All right, so those are natural harmonics. That's how we use them. We can combine them with notes, and so we could like hold a note out and the hardest part there is being accurate with the harmonics. And also holding the other note down while moving the rest of your hand around is kind of tricky sometimes too. So you practice doing that before. So it's kind of fun. Oh, and one thing I do want to mention about harmonics, if you're having trouble getting them to ring out loudly, boost the treble signal on your EQ. The treble and the mids. Basically, if you boost the treble too much, especially on the pickups that are more like this that have a 3-band EQ, then you might get it to be too punchy and you might have too much of an attack on every note. But as you can see on this style, the shadow pickup, I have it turned all the way to the treble side. If that's the bass side over here, I turn it all the way to the treble side. And then that's been getting the best harmonics for me. So here's the difference. Here's with the treble. Here's with it all the way turned to bass. Actually, it's not really that bad, but you get a low hit with it that sometimes can take away from it. And then here's somewhere in the middle. You might like it somewhere in the middle. But I think it's easier to get the higher harmonics with a little less need of accuracy when you have the treble boosted on here. I could be wrong. You still got to be accurate. But the harmonics in between the second and the third fret are really hard to get. They're much easier on a full scale bass where you have just a tiny bit more room to make it a little bit easier to get accurate. So now let's talk about false harmonics. False harmonics are a little bit different. So you know how we were talking about, let's just go back to this idea of the 12th fret harmonic. Well, what if we fretted a note instead of just playing the 12th fret and then just added 12 frets to that note? So let's say we're playing the first fret on the G string, right? So we play that note. Cool. What if we want a harmonic that's an octave higher than that? Well, we can go up to the 13th fret up here. And notice what I did. I put my thumb where the harmonic would be. I'm holding this note down like a normal note. I've got my thumb over the harmonic up here. I'm touching very lightly, and then I'm plucking with one of my free fingers. I said one of my free fingers, but either, one of these 3 fingers too. It might be a good way to say it. So you could use your index finger, your middle finger to pluck while your thumb is touching that harmonic. So you got to be very accurate still. It's just about being right over the fret. I have never seen a 5-string pack of flat wounds. If they started making them, it would have been way more recent than I know of. So I don't think they have them, but you could always keep looking, keep asking them if they plan on coming out with them. I have a feeling they don't, because the 5 strings just don't sell as much as the 4 strings, and they're mass producing them, but they're not mass producing them at as high of a volume as the round wounds, because they're a little bit harder to get right, I think. Okay, anyway, so that's how we can get that false harmonic. So you could also get a false harmonic where the 7th fret up from there would be, so if you're on the 1st fret, you add +7, so we want to be over the 8th fret here, right? So there'd be a harmonic there as well. It'd just be a little harder to be accurate on it. Okay, so that being said, I want to say something about harmonics. that's kind of interesting. If I split the string in half, that's essentially what I'm doing by playing the 12th fret. There's about as much string, there should be exactly as much string, because it's really a mathematic thing with these harmonics. If my fingers were long enough, I could measure that for you to show you. But let me try using this part of my arm. So you can see from my thumb to about there on my arm, let me put that part there. It's almost exactly half. And it should be exactly half. If you measured with a more accurate, like a ruler or something, then you might find that it's exactly in the middle. And it doesn't matter really on that one which side of the string you pluck. They'll both get that harmonic out. This one will be louder because the pickup's over here and not over there, but it doesn't really matter which side of the string you pluck. But that being said, we're splitting the string exactly in half. When you split the string into fourths, you end up with one here, and then another one somewhere around here, and I'll probably miss it the first time. Oh. But yeah, if you can eyeball exactly cutting it into that fourth, then you'll find exactly where another harmonic is randomly on this string. You could also use your thumb to play that. So that being said, when we were talking about going up 12 frets from a note to play a false harmonic, when we run out of frets, we can keep going up the string. We just have to estimate where the fret would be. And as you can see, they get slightly closer together, so the harmonics are going to be slightly closer together as we get up here. But let's say we were playing the let's say we're playing the 7th fret note here, and we want a harmonic that's essentially 12 frets up from there. We would want to be placing our thumb and playing a false harmonic precisely where the, 7 plus 12 is 19th fret would be. But we don't have 19 frets, right? We've got 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we're going to pretend 17, 18, 19. I think it's going to be about here, but I'm just estimating. So let's see what happens. Somewhere in there, you can hear that there's a harmonic there. But you can also hear that I'm just slightly off from it because it's not ringing out clearly. There it is. Got it now. So basically, you're just estimating up where 12 frets above that note would be and doing that. So it's hard to be accurate with this, but Jaco uses a lot of these false harmonics. He also does some down here where he uses this hand to do both. Remember how we said there's like a 5th fret harmonic? Well, there's one song where 4th fret harmonic, just behind the 4th fret. Well, there's one song where he holds down the 2nd fret and then uses his pinky to get that other harmonic. So it's like playing the 4th fret harmonic, but we're using our finger almost like a capo on the 2nd fret, and then our pinky is getting where the harmonic would normally be. So it's a little painful in the hand. You're holding down that note, 2nd fret on the A string, and then you're lightly touching the 6th fret on the A string just behind the piece of metal. And it should ring out like that. So that's kind of a hard thing to do, but it gives you an idea of those false harmonics. When I was playing the How Great Thou Art arrangement, I was using the 12th fret idea of false harmonics to get the melody notes that I didn't have on the bass ukulele. I didn't want to change the key because I knew that a lot of people were wanting to learn that bass line in the original key. So because I would have run out of notes up here, I decided instead to do that idea of going 12 frets up from a note. And I had to practice it a lot to get it accurately because it's just a little closer together here. A really good example of this technique that you could hear on Weather Report's song Birdland. It sounds like guitar. He's so clean at it. Jaco is so clean at it that he's doing like, let's see if I can find the harmonic first. There it is. Right? I'm not as clean as he is at it. So he's even bending that false harmonic by hitting the harmonic, whoops, and then bending the string, which is once again harder to do on these because they kind of roll under your fingers. So the harmonic kind of loses a little bit of its quality from that. All right. Do you prefer the flat wound strings, round wound, or rubber strings for amplification? And what strings for an all acoustic sound? Okay, so an all acoustic sound is just about projecting as loud as you can to be heard. That's really with the U-bass, they're all so quiet that is like the only factor that matters. So the round wounds project the loudest. They ring out the most, and they have enough mid-range to cut through things. So if I were playing entirely acoustic, it would definitely have to be the round wounds. And when I go and jam with people, I take this bass ukulele, this U-bass rather than the flat wounds or rather than the rubber strings. So acoustic, it's no question, you need something that projects a little bit louder. And then as far as amplified, it really, for me, the reason I have all of them, other than doing these comparison videos and having fun with them, the main reason that I have all three is because they're all good for different things. So if I'm playing more harmonics and I'm trying to do something that sounds a little more like an electric bass, I'm going to use the round wounds for harmonics. The flat wound strings you slide easier on. So if I'm doing a lot of slides, I'll use the flat wound strings. To me, they're the best. The flat wounds are the best all-around string because they're easier to play. They have a little bit more tension to them than the rubber strings, so my fingers don't get caught up on them when I'm trying to play fast. And it's the same with the round wounds too. I can play really fast without worrying about my fingers getting stuck on the strings. But they have totally different vibes. So this one has a more biting, kind of punchy tone. But it also has more string noise is the side effect of having the ridges on the strings. But the flat wound strings, to me, they blend a lot better. They sound a little bit closer to an upright than the round wounds do, although the rubber strings sound the most. And I just find them to be the happy medium of everything. But there are certain times where I definitely prefer the round wounds and certain times where I prefer the rubber strings when I'm trying to get more of an organic, earthy kind of sound, more like the upright. So I hope that answers your question. It's really just a matter of what sound are you going for in that case. Okay, so back to the false harmonics. I'm going to give you a real simple, straightforward exercise that kind of makes sense. You know how we're counting 12 frets up? What I want you to do is just practice going, pushing down on the first fret and going up to the 13th fret with your thumb, doing a false harmonic there, and just keep moving around until you get it accurate enough. The other thing is you can't pluck too hard, you know, and it seems like the further away you pluck from where you're doing the harmonic, the easier it'll be to get the note to ring out. But there's just not a whole bunch of distance that you can do with this, and you don't really want to like hurt your hand trying to do that. And you also still need to be really accurate with this hand. So maybe using your middle finger and just being somewhere about that far away might be the best middle ground. Okay, it seems like where my ring finger is actually going to get the clearest one out. Okay, so that's what we do there, and then just move up one fret with both hands, and then just keep doing that. When you run out of frets, estimate, and if it doesn't sound right, scoot over slightly and try again. There we go. That's where it really is. Okay, and just practice going around a little bit until you realize exactly where it should be. And just keep going up. Right, and so now I'm out of frets, and I was able to get one. Can't believe I was able to go to it the second time. But that's the idea. We just go straight up, one fret at a time, and get all the way through there. And then you can try it on the other strings, although I think that most of the time when I use the harmonics, I'm using them because I'm out of frets up here. So I'm really only doing them on the G string unless I can't get from here back to the G string notes quick enough because the rest of the notes were all around here. In which case, I may have to do a false harmonic on the D string just in case. So if I were trying to get an octave above this note, for instance, I eyeballed it and hoped I was right, and I was very close. So I had to just make a micro adjustment just now. So now I know where it's at. And so if I have a song that's only using like 2 or 3 of these, I'll try to make a really big mental note about how far away it is from the sound hole or how far away it is from the neck. just whatever's closest so that I have like a reference point and then go, oh, it's exactly halfway between the where the neck ends and where the sound hole ends, you know? So it's just kind of like one of those things where you can use reference points. If you really had to, you could make a mark on the string, but I don't recommend that because the strings will kind of die out over the years and get quieter and quieter. And one other thing that I want to say about this real quick is these strings are almost 3 years old. I've been terrible. I've neglected putting new strings on this one. And honestly, I have some round wounds I could put on this one that I took off of the Journeyman, because the Journeyman originally had round wound strings, but when I put the flat wounds on, that means I have an extra set of round wounds that are in much newer condition than this. So they're much newer and they haven't been played on as much. So Harmonics ring out better on newer strings and on cleaner strings. If you get a bunch of dirt or a bunch of skin, because when you're playing a lot, little tiny skin particles get in the strings and they start clogging it up, it'll make the harmonics ring out less because the string just won't vibrate as freely. So does anybody have any questions about harmonics and how to do these false harmonics? Was anybody able to successfully get them? You can go ahead and comment and let me know if you're able to do this, or if you're feeling a little bit frustrated, maybe we can work on it a little bit more. But just let me know in the comments if you're trying this and any luck that you're having or any trouble you're having. I'm going to read this comment that's on here while I wait. So Kendrick asks, do you have any advice for restringing a U-bass? For me, putting the rubber strings on is really challenging since you have to stretch them so much and tie them onto the peg. This is an interesting thing. I have actually never... And yes, with the rubber strings, it's a rubbery material, but it's really polyurethane. Yes. So to answer your question real quick, Michael, yes, I mean the polyurethane strings. Okay. But Kendrick, yes, do I have any advice for restringing a bass? I actually have not had to restring the rubber strings. So I'd have advice for the metal strings. And the main thing is just they give you washers. Make sure to use the washers to stop the ends from pushing into the holes in the bass over here. So yes, you would want to use those washers for sure, so you don't hurt the wood as much. And then as you're going through here, you put the string. I usually put the string into the little hole in the middle, and then I hold it down with my thumb while I'm tuning it, so that the string is wrapping nicely around, and I'm holding the string down. But with the rubber strings, it's a lot harder to get it to wind as properly. You may still be able to do that trick where you hold it down. I'm not sure with the tie if it's as necessary. Like I said, I haven't had to restring any of the rubber strings yet. So I'll let you know more when I get a chance to do that. There are a lot of videos on them though that might be helpful. I hope that helps. All right. All right. And then Seth, I'm trying to think of a good example of a song with false harmonics. Again, as an example to listen to. Birdland is like the best. I mean, it's by far not the only one, but to me, when you listen to the intro where the bass initially comes in on Birdland, which is off of Heavy Weather by Weather Report, it's literally like first time I heard it, I thought it was guitar. He's playing so cleanly. But it's false harmonics, and that's where he's up here on the 14th fret, and then doing that idea of 12 frets up. So as you can tell, I'm not great at finding it, but once I find it, right? And so then he's moving back and forth between all those and getting that, and then at some point he decides to jump it up the octave from there. And I have no clue if he's splitting it in half here, or if he's going closer to the bridge, but I have a feeling he's going closer to the bridge, and then he's 24 frets up, which doesn't work as well on U-bass. Yeah, but you get the idea. So he does that, but he does it so cleanly, it almost sounds like a guitar. But that's the main reason I use the false harmonics, is when you run out of frets, it's nice to have some extra melody notes. When you use the natural harmonics, a lot of times I'll use those to just play a melody of a song down here. So if you have a full minor scale down here, anything that uses the whole minor scale could be played in harmonics. Let's see. Let's see. Right. So you play a lot of Carol of the Bells that way. But once again, it's hard to get them to ring out very clearly, and you got to be very accurate. And as you can tell, I'm less accurate on the E string 3rd fret harmonic, and it's just harder to get because it's a thicker string. So you got to be way more accurate. And I'm playing really close to the bridge, if you notice. And when I'm doing the false harmonics, sometimes I have a little piece of fingernail that sticks out on the side, and that can help me be super accurate on the false harmonics when I'm over here. So as long as I find the right place, you know, then that allows me to be like ultra precise. But it's hard to do it for in the context of a song, because you have to really be aware of where you are on the string, and it's really just, it's almost like a muscle memory thing. But it's also kind of like when you miss it the first time, you can tell how far off you were by just being very, very aware of how the string is vibrating. Because harmonics, when you play them, the string doesn't really vibrate right where the harmonic is. It vibrates everywhere except where the harmonic is. It's almost like there's no vibration there at all, but there's a little bit, but not much. And so when you play the string, if you feel a whole bunch of vibration and you're getting a slightly muted harmonic, you can kind of tell that the string's not free to vibrate as much. And so then it's just a matter of kind of like getting used to how it feels, but you can almost kind of tell which way to move your hand out of the way to be a little bit more accurate. So I hope that helps and isn't too confusing. Don't overthink that part. Just right now when you're playing, just try scooting around the fret a little, or scooting around the space on the string. And sometimes it's fun to just not even try to play a specific harmonic, but just move your hand slowly across the string and figure out where all the harmonics are. It's a weird one. Yes, that one's going to be like the epitome of one that's hard to get out. But if you were using something like the corner of your fingernail, you might be able to get a pretty crisp harmonic even in a place like that. But Jocko uses them there. In Portrait or Tracy, Jocko uses one when he does, let's see. Those are all natural harmonics. When, so he's doing all that. But when he gets to, it's been so long since I played it. That part, when he does that, he's playing the 2nd fret on the A string and using his pinky to get the false harmonic on the 6th fret. And that's another example of false harmonics. I can't think of too many others off the top of my head. If you know any, if you're familiar with this technique and you've seen people do this on bass, please put a couple of examples in the comments, because everybody on here is looking for more examples of it. But Jocko used them a lot. Oh, another person that uses them sometimes, Cliff Burton of Metallica, when he was playing Anesthesia, which I know the first part, but I don't know the part that has the false harmonics. He does them a slightly different way. Rather than using his thumb on the string and plucking with his pointer finger, he'll use his pointer finger to play the harmonic and his thumb to pluck the string. So if you were playing here, let's say you're pushing down on the 5th fret here maybe, and we go 12 frets up from that, that'd be where the 17th fret is. So we've got 12th, 15th, 16th, and 17th would be right at the end of the fingerboard, fretboard. It's hard to do, but it might allow you to reach further out too. To me, it's not a great angle on the hand to try to get that version. So I like using my thumb and then plucking with the other fingers. But you could also use your pointer finger if you feel like you're more accurate that way, and pluck with your thumb. Almost like like you're doing a gun motion and then you're just bringing it down. But to me, it's still about needing to be a little bit further away than that to get the note to ring out. So that's harder for me than going. Okay. So that's about it for harmonics and false harmonics. You can really do enough false harmonics to where you could play a whole entire melody just with the harmonics. And then that way you don't have to be confined to just the B minor scale or parts of the G major scale and D major scale. But I hope that helps a lot. So does anybody have any questions just about U-bass in general now that we're through the harmonics part? Or does anybody have any questions about harmonics? Victor Wooten uses harmonics a lot too. I don't see him do as many false harmonics. But yeah, Cliff Burton did use them on Anesthesia with the distortion right at the very end of the song. It's like do 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 do, and then right before the there's some live footage of him playing it, and he always does them in a different order live, and he's just kind of like messing around with it, almost like he's improvising a little bit with it. But he does do the false harmonics toward the very end of the song. Right, and then Victor mostly is doing natural harmonics. I think he has done false harmonics too, but he's another good one about using the harmonics to play a song. So he does Amazing Grace like that. It's really cool. But you've got that, and then he's got a song called Division, I think, that occasionally uses harmonics. And then I'm trying to think of the names of the other ones. I have a Victor Wooten book over there. I could just grab it and say them. But if you listen to a lot of stuff off the A Show of Hands album, he's using a lot of harmonics there. On certain songs, he's doing some tapping stuff. So just a lot of really cool stuff all the way through. Right. So Michael, I kind of agree with you on the strings. It's like, to me, they do feel better. I'm gonna totally botch the pronunciation of it. Someone was saying you pronounce the E's, so is it like pahoe hoe? But anyway, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I had always called them the pahoho before and got corrected on one of my videos, so I'm trying. But those strings, they stretch a lot more. They don't set quite as easily as the Thunder Gut from what I've heard. I think they're just more of a pain tuning a lot. But they are pahoe. Okay, so it's not an E, it's an eh sound. Thank you. So yeah, so to me they feel better too. And the only time that I've really played them has been at stores, and when I did the round wounds versus rubber string, and I know they're really polyurethane, but they have a rubbery feel, so I still call them rubber because it's just easier than spelling out polyurethane. But basically, they did seem to have a nicer sound, like less string noise was a big thing that I noticed about them, and just kind of like a warmer sound instead of a punchier sound. And I noticed that video that somebody had recommended to me of Bakiti Kumalo, which once again I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but Paul Simon's bass player on the Graceland stuff, he has his signature U bass, and he has those strings on there, and so there's less fret noise. He was still able to get harmonics to ring out brilliantly on there when he was demonstrating it. So I feel like it may even be easier to get harmonics to ring out on those as well, but you have to be really accurate either way. On the rubber strings or the polyurethane strings. Yes. So there's that. But yeah, I kind of prefer calling them rubber over poly, because if you say poly, people will be like, what's that? And then you have to end up typing out polyurethane anyway. But good call on that. But I do like those strings a lot, and I have yet to have a bass ukulele with one. I'm thinking about getting one of the solid body, just a California custom shop, and possibly just leaving those strings on there rather than changing them out for something else, just so I have one that I can play on there like that as well. 7 bass ukes. That's awesome. At some point, you should take a picture of your collection if you haven't already and share that to Ubass Freaks on Facebook. I'm sure you have, but if you haven't done it recently, just either like tag me in the post or something, because I'd love to see which ones you've got. But that's awesome. Yeah, if you can just maybe tag me in a comment under the post, or if you happen to repost it in the future, I'd love to see your collection. I may have already. It was just probably a while ago. But yep. So does anybody else have any questions specifically about the U-bass and the bass ukulele? 30 total, man. That's awesome. I'm jealous. I think I've just got 4 right now, and I had a Haydeen or Hadian or whatever they were, but I gave that one away to help me reach 1,000 subscribers, and that one was a pretty good one. I wasn't disappointed with it at all, but I did have to make a truss rod adjustment to get it to play a little bit better with a little bit less buzz. But it was a slight truss rod thing, and once I fixed that, it played great just all the way through. Yes, so Ubass Freaks is a group. It's a group on Facebook. Do it without the dash though. Just do it like it's one word. Ubass, literally UBASS, all one word without the dash in the middle, and then Freaks. There is a space between Ubass and Freaks. But yeah, it's been kind of a fun resource just to have. There's a lot of really talented Ubass players on there, and a lot of knowledgeable people that have done a lot more tweaks to the Ubass. So they've modified theirs a lot more. So there's several people on there that have like bought the kits and put them together. So if you've seen the California Custom Shop kits, I think Magnus, that's part of Play Ubass, he's also on YouTube as well. If you look up Play Ubass, you'll probably find him as well. But he's on there, and he answers a lot of people's questions about stuff like that as well. He's tried a lot more of the strings out than I have, and I'm sure Michael has too. But at some point, I want to, get a whole bunch of different strings and do like an ultimate string test video on probably the Kala Wanderer, just so that people know what it sounds like on the kind of entry level Ubass. Yeah, that'd be cool to post to see that post again. All right. So does anybody else have any questions? Got a few more minutes. I like TalkBass too. I'm on there, but I've only been on there a couple times because I feel like I'm only there to answer questions every now and then. And so I don't want to spam everybody there. So usually when I do like a full scale bass review, I'll post over there. And there've been a couple times where I posted some Ubass stuff, but I'm just afraid of like wearing out my welcome there because I like the forum a lot. So I need to kind of know that I'm not breaking any etiquette rules there. And that's the reason I'm not on there as much. But I do like the forum, and I do think it's a great forum. But the Facebook group is awesome too. Been having a little bit of trouble finding a good Reddit for it. There is a Ubass Reddit, and I think they got mad at me for posting my weekly video every week, and so they turned it into a private group. And now it seems like nobody posts on it at all, and it's just a kind of dead Reddit. So I wish they hadn't done that, because there were people adding to the Reddit, and now it has more members than it did before, but none of those members are posting anything. So I think they were coming for the videos, and now I'm not able to post videos on there. So I just don't know if they're going to do much of anything on that Reddit. And it seems like I was the only one answering people's questions when they would have questions on there too. So maybe I'll have to make a Reddit for that, or just do it on my current one. But yeah, TalkBass is really good. Ubass Freaks is really good. Like I said, Magnus is just a really cool guy. We've got a video coming out. I think we're going to start a new channel for it. It'll either be there or it'll end up on Magnus's channel, which maybe I can link some of these channels in the description later on when I get done with the with this post. But basically, a whole bunch of Ubase players got together. It was like, I think it was 9 people total. So it was me, Magnus, Danielle, Dinks, or how do you pronounce his last name? I know. He was on there, and then a few others. There was a Ubase player from Germany. There was Chip Boaz, or how do you pronounce his last name? Once again, I can not pronounce anything apparently, but Chip's on there too, and we just all got together and played the Bach Cello Suite Prelude. So we'll be posting that pretty soon, and that was kind of fun. We just split it up into little sections, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys too when we decide to release it. I'm not sure if Milo's on there. Might be. I'll have to go through the list of names. I didn't know everybody on there. I know that Ari or is it Ari or Ari? Because I knew someone with the same name that was like Ari, but I want to say it's Ari's base blog. But she's on there, and a couple other people. So it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to that. But we've got that coming out pretty soon, just when we all get organized about how we want to release it. So I imagine it'll be in the next like week or two, maybe in the next couple days, but we'll see. But yeah, and then there's a whole list there. In fact, I have a way to find the video on Instagram. I might be able to go grab that and look at it and see who the bass players are on there. But there'll be a post pretty soon about it. I'll be sharing that to try to like get people over to the YouTube page. I know not a lot of people check the community posts on YouTube, but I'll post a community post when we get there. Awesome. I'll have to check out your collection. I might go ahead and do that now. Okay. Hopefully it won't mess up the live stream trying to load too much stuff. Oh, just a slow Facebook. All right. I'll check that out. But does anybody else have any questions in the meantime? All that is loading. Questions. I think I see 12 people on here. Does anybody have a question about the harmonics? Oh, now it's 13. Does anybody have any questions about harmonics or false harmonics? And the false harmonics, they're harder to get to be as loud. And I feel like the harmonics work better on this Ubase, but that the false harmonics work a little bit better on the flat wound strings. But I like messing around with harmonics, and sometimes I just use them to complete chords, which is a very like Victor Wooten kind of thing to do, or Jocko does it a lot too. But if you haven't heard Portrait of Tracy, that one is just really cool. It's hard with the notes so close together. I'm just making excuses now. It's just something to practice a little bit more. All right, let's see. We got any questions? Yeah, Seth, I know concerts being canceled is pretty rough. You'd never seen Les Claypool live? He's come through a lot, so I imagine once concerts aren't canceled, he'll come through again. My Primus poster on the wall back here, I think I told y'all this in the last one, but you can't really see the signatures because they're a little bit higher up on the picture. But right here is Tim's signature, and Les Claypool's is over here over his hand. Probably hard to see from there, but I got a signed poster and decided to frame it and have it in my background. So Primus is definitely one of my favorites from when I was younger, for sure, and I still like him a lot. But yeah, sometimes I'll try to write songs with harmonics, but mostly I use it kind of like a texture. Right, so there's a whole bunch of things you can do with them. I think I accidentally played a piece of a Disney song. Hopefully they won't copyright strike this just for a random melody that ended up accidentally played. All right. Can you make a U-bass tab to help us remember where the harmonics are? Yes, and I can also tell you I can do that, and I will do that. I can also make a tab for, or I could just tell you some arrangements that already have some false harmonics in them and kind of how they're notated on Guitar Pro. So I use Guitar Pro to make those tabs. And basically what they do is for the false harmonics, they give you where to fret the note outside of the little brackets. And then inside of the brackets, they're giving you I'm calling them brackets, but they might just be like little arrows, little like, I'll just call them arrows, basically, but just like greater than, less than signs kind of thing. But they might be in between that for the harmonic, and then there'll be a number just outside of those brackets, and that number will be where you fret the note, and then the number inside the brackets is what fret the harmonic is at. And so sometimes it might say like the harmonics over 2.3. So 2.3 would be you go to the second fret and you go just a little bit up from there, right? Or it might say 6 or 7. I can't remember the exact thing, but that's just saying like 0.6 of the way going this way through the fret. So if you were 0.3 here, 0.6 would be somewhere around here, or whatever the point numbers are. I wish I knew that better, but it's very mathematical. But you can also figure out where there will be harmonics by splitting the bass ukulele into different fractions. So like this, just the string length, just the scale, right? If you split it in half, you basically got the 12th fret harmonic. If you split it into fourths, you'd have one here, one at the 12th fret, which will be an octave lower than the other two, but it's still the same idea, and one over here somewhere, right? And so it ends up being the 5th fret. 5th fret, 12th fret, and somewhere over here. Yeah, I found it. Yeah, so you just try to eyeball it, and you can figure that out. But it'll be the same harmonic there, the same harmonic here, and then there'll be one in the middle that's an octave lower. So that's splitting the string into 4 sections by having 3 splits, 3 places where there are harmonics. But it splits the string into equal fourths. I think there's one for thirds as well. I think the 7th fret harmonic is like splitting the string into thirds. So if you can eyeball and do the math better than I can, it seems like that one would end up being somewhere around here, if my eyes aren't deceiving me. Yeah, so there you go. So the 7th fret one, you have 2 things, but it's splitting the string into 3 equal parts, if that makes sense. So that's kind of a good way to find out where the harmonics are as well. And then when you fret a note, it's the same idea with the false harmonics. It's just now you're splitting this distance in half from that piece of metal all the way to the bridge. So where is half of this length now? It looks like the half of that length would be right about here. And it is. And that's where the 13th fret would have been, which is 12. Sorry, I said the 13th. The 17th fret would have been if you added 12 to 5, and you ended up with that right there. But you can also see it's splitting this and this into equal parts. So hopefully that helps. It's really just like a bunch of math and physics, and there's probably more like scientific stuff about this where you can figure out why, but splitting it into different fractions gives you different harmonics. And you can overthink it to death if you want to, but you don't need to. You can also just memorize 12th fret, 5th fret, 12th fret, 7th fret, 5th fret, and then these little parts in between the 4th fret and the 3rd fret. And then as you get closer together, you got that. But then I might notate these things out. So this is my plan. I'm going to notate the B minor scale for you. right? And then I'm going to notate just on one string where all the different harmonics, and not all of them, but I'll do where the 12th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, all those, 4th fret, and 3rd fret are. Which these will be the hardest to get out of the rubber strings of the ones that we went over. All right. So hopefully that helps a little bit. The main thing is you just have to be very precise about where you're playing, and you also don't want to like if you're plucking the string, you don't want that finger to hit the string again and accidentally mute it, because if you mute any part of the string, the harmonic won't ring out. Like, check it out. You'd think it would just be this part ringing out, but if I were to stop the string over here, it would stop that side too. So you can't accidentally touch it behind or in front of the string. You have to just be touching where the harmonic is. And then on a false harmonic, you have to make sure that no other part of these other fingers are touching anywhere other than where you're trying to play. Because if one of the other fingers is touching the string in there, it just won't work. So I hope that helps. I know that some of that information is a little scattered throughout this. So if you go back and watch this again, just know that there's a whole part in the middle where I was talking about other things besides harmonics. But any final questions? It's pretty much the end of the live stream. Any last questions that you want to sneak in there in the next minute? So I'll play something real quick and give you a chance to do that. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. So that's also a arpeggio with harmonics. 1, 3. It's really hard to get the octave though. There it is. Cool. All right. So the other thing about harmonics, use them sparingly, use them in situations where it's kind of cool, use them to create solo songs. Don't try to overdo them in a band context where they don't want harmonics. This is one of those things where it might get you fired. Probably not, but just don't overdo them is the point. The last note is always the hardest with harmonics. It's definitely true because they get closer and closer and closer together as you get further along. And let's see, Tristan, would I recommend playing U-basses live? I like playing U-basses live. I don't do it a lot because I really like my Fender Jazz, and I think the people that I'm playing with like that sound better for a lot of ensembles. I am going to say that with the round wound strings, with this U-bass, sometimes it has trouble cutting depending on what amp you're playing through. So you may have to burst. You may have to boost certain parts of the EQ to get it to cut through a band a little bit better. But the rubber strings seem to do pretty well on that. And I believe it's just an EQ setting kind of thing where you just got to tweak it a little bit. Maybe compression would help. I'm not sure. But just to help it cut through the mix a little bit. But I would recommend it. I know a lot of people use them for bluegrass gigs and things of that nature. And of course, there are so many ukulele ensembles that use them. So it works really well for those too. But I do recommend them. And then Michael says, I only play my U-bass. Or sorry, my bass U, because I can't read, with my group live when we did. And yes, I think it's a lot of fun playing them live. So an amp recommendation. I really, right now I'm playing through a PA system. I know you can't really see it, but right now I'm just playing through this speaker hooked up to it's just a Behringer PA system. When I play out live, I'm using a Fender Rumble 200 amp. But I dare say that that's not the best to use. I feel like the reason that it doesn't cut as well with that is because that has one 15-inch speaker, and I think you want the mids to be boosted a little bit more to get it to cut through the mix. So you may want something that has some 12-inch speakers in it, or you may want something, if you want to go crazy, you can get something with a big speaker, like a 15-inch for the low end, and then have a separate speaker cabinet with some 10s or some 12s in it to get that high and mid range. But that may be overkill for most settings where you'd be playing the U-bass. I think it's really just a matter of having a sound that cuts enough for the stage volume, because anything else, if you're playing a bigger stage, the PA system will be taking care of it, and it really won't matter what you're doing for an amp. But just just something like that boosts the mids a little bit. So I feel like the Fender Rumble 500 that has two 12s in it might work better than the one that I have, in the sense that it would cut better. However, with the rubber strings, you want the low end sound, so it may be better with a 15-inch. And Michael's got the Phil Jones. I've heard a lot of good things about the Phil Jones. Nice, and then a Carvin. Very good stuff. Yeah, Michael, you got a lot of good gear. I should talk to you about gear, see what I'm missing out on. But that's awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you've enjoyed learning some harmonics and just shooting shop about the U bass and the bass ukuleles. I'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.